So how exactly do production costs differ in the long run? Remember that in the long run, all of our inputs can be adjusted, including our plant capacity. Therefore, every single variable is seen as flexible, and there are no fixed costs in the long run. So this changes up our ideas of cost just a little bit. The main strategy or the main sort of decision that firms have to make is to decide what plant size is going to be most appropriate for their market, because they can now adjust their plant size for their output levels. So they have an idea of exactly how much output they want to bring out into the marketplace, and they're going to adjust their plant size that is going to be the best for them, that essentially minimizes their costs in order for them to conduct their business. Every single plant size is going to be associated with a unique long-run cost structure, and let's go ahead and take a look at 3 different size firms just to give you guys a pretty good example. So here, let's take a look at the long-run costs. So long-run costs. And this is going to change how our cost curves are going to be derived and what they look like as well. So the main sort of strategy or the main decision that firms have to make is that firms choose the plant size. Firms choose the plant size appropriate. Plant size appropriate for their market and adjust as needed. For their market and adjust as needed. Adjust as needed. So here, we just want to go ahead and see that everything is flexible. The only decision that a firm has is to adjust its plant size. In this particular example, let's go ahead and work with 3 size firms. We have ATC1, which is going to be the cost curve associated with a small firm. We have ATC2, which is going to be the cost curve associated with a medium-sized firm. And ATC3, which is the cost curve associated with a large firm. So there can be a lot more different size firms, but just for simplicity, we want to focus in on 3 particular size firms. And the firm in this example is going to choose the best size firm that minimizes its cost depending on how much output it wants to bring out into the marketplace. So take a look at this particular graph right here, where we have these 3 curves, these 3 size firms, their cost curves all laid out along with the output on the horizontal axis. So suppose that this one firm wanted to bring in Q0 units of output into the marketplace. What would be the best size firm for this particular firm to operate? The small firm, the medium firm, or the large firm? In order to answer this question, we go to Q0 where we have on the output, and then just go straight up and see exactly what cost curve we hit first. We hit the cost curve that's going to be associated with the small firm first, and we notice it's going to give us an average total cost of 0 right here, so ATC 0. And that's exactly the best size firm, the most appropriate size firm for the firm if it wants to produce Q0 units of output, because it minimizes the cost. If it actually tried to produce Q0 units of output at the medium-sized firm, so we're going to hit ATC2 right here, that tells us that the cost would actually be much larger than the cost associated with a small firm. If they ran the medium-sized firm, they'd probably have a lot of slack, meaning that there's a lot of unused space. They're not using their space to the most efficient manner, so their costs are going to be higher. And their costs would be even higher if they even chose the large firm in this instance, because the ATC cost curve for that size firm, ATC3, would be much, much higher, so they'd have even more slack and a lot more wasted space. So essentially, what we want to do for every single quantity here, we just want to go up and see what is the size firm that's going to minimize our cost, and that's going to be the best decision for the firm. For Q1, what would be the best size firm? It'd be the medium-sized firm now, because it gives us an ATC cost of ATC1 right here. If we chose the small or the large size firm, we would have higher costs, so that would not be the most appropriate firm. So essentially, we can talk a little bit about ranges right here, anywhere from 0 all the way to sort of this intersection between ATC1 and ATC2. We would go ahead and choose the small firm, because everywhere there, that's going to minimize the cost. From this intersection to the next intersection, that's where the medium-sized firm is most appropriate. And then from this intersection all the way to the rest of time, that's exactly where the large firm is the most appropriate, and that's where we minimize our cost. So what we have right here, when we map out exactly the minimum cost for every single quantity right here, we have the best choice of a size firm, and we plot out this bolded green line right here. That exactly matches the best response for the firm in every single quantity scenario. And this bolded green line is exactly what is known as our long-run average total cost curve. So no longer is it like one linear line or a parabola. It takes a lot of funky different shapes depending on how many size firms that we have. Here we only have 3. If we have 4, 5, 6, this long-run average total cost curve could take a whole bunch of different funky shapes. But here, with these 3 firms, with these 3 size firms, we know exactly every single size firm that is going to be minimizing the sort of cost for our firm in this example. So what we have here is what we have mapped, what we are interested in, and that's the long run total, long run average. Let's put that there first. Long run average total cost curve. Cost curve. And that, once again, just tells us the lowest cost for every single output that can be produced in the long run. The lowest unit cost at which any particular output can be produced in the long run. Can be produced in the long run. So here, once again, that funky shape that we just saw, that bolded green line, is known as our long run average total cost curve, the lowest unit cost at which any particular output can be produced in the long run. And this funky shape inherently comes because we are taking a look at the long run where we don't have any fixed cost at all. All of our variables are now seen as adjustable, and the only decision that the firm has is what size plant is going to be most appropriate for me given the quantity I want to produce. From this, we want to go ahead and see at what ranges, when we increase output, is the firm's cost going to rise, fall, or stay constant. And that's exactly where we come to the very important term known as economies of scale, and we'll get all into that in our next video.